Hey everyone, Correct Genes here for Lock Pickers United, and today we have a very interesting lock. This is the U-Shin Showa NX, and because I've not done a video in a while, what I've decided to do is to break the silence by choosing a lock that is extremely hard to gut, because it's going to go bad and I'm rusty. So anyway, this lock has a variable number of pins, as do a lot of locks in the same category. This one in particular has 14, and like various other Japanese high pin count locks, it has the feature of having security pins in it. So it has 12 spools inside, one standard pin, and one ball bearing. That ball bearing being used to have the lock-in effect that locks in this category often like to have. The other interesting feature it has is it has a warding, which is not very visible right now because it's recessed, but it has warding that's similar to this other lock here. This is a cod key CD. And it requires you, in order to get the pins coming from the left side, to sort of curve around the warding like so, or to pick it from the top like so. Sorry, pick it from the top like so. Otherwise, if you try to pick it from the bottom using a tool like, say, this, you'll have an okay time doing it on the right side, because it doesn't get in the way, but on the left side, it will block you from pushing pins in all the way. So it requires you to do that extra little interesting workaround. The other thing is, like locks of this sort that have security pins, you need to be very conscious of the direction you're picking from. So if I am picking counterclockwise and I'm trying to pick pins on the right, then I can use this pick to push those pins because it'll go with the counter rotation. But if I try to do it to the left, the long lever on this thing will create torque that goes against counter rotation, and it will be very hard to pick those pins. So that is another thing to consider. The last thing about this lock is it has extremely obstructive zero lift pins. So you can take a look at these dimples on here. This pin right there on the right side is zero lift. This pin right here on the left side is also a zero lift. And they fill up pretty much the entire keyway, which means that when you go to pick from the top, you need to use something with a relatively thin shaft. A thick shaft will just get caught and you can't get past them. The other thing is you need to make sure that the flag is short enough in order to get on top of that warding there, because if it is not, then it will get wedged in with those zero lifts and you will not be able to get the pick in. So those are all the considerations that go into picking this lock. Then of course you use a deep hook in order to get to the top pins, sort of dodging everything else around them. And then you can use a mixture of bottom tension when picking from the top and top tension when picking from the bottom. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this clamped up and get it picked. All right, here we go. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this sort of long flag, stick it way in the back, because that's where the only standard pin is. I'm gonna back off a little and immediately drop into a false set. Now I'm gonna use this flag to start picking the right side. So one click there. Okay, nothing on that one. All right, there we go. Got another click right there. Okay, not feeling anything else there. Grab a little curved guy. It's a little shorter, so it puts less torque and it gets around the warding on the left side so that I can pick anything that requires more lift. Getting some counter rotation on one. There we go. Got a click. Okay, I felt like all right, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to bottom tension because I'm feeling something on pin 2 there, but it's giving me extra resistance. So I'm gonna try to attack it from the other side. There we go. Got a nice click out of that. 3. Nice click out of 3. We're in a nice deeper false set right now. So let's go ahead and switch to the top pins, which are the most annoying ones to feel through all of the other pins. All right, trying to position onto one. Not really getting anything there. How about two? Counter rotation on two. That might also be me pushing on a side pin. Okay, nice click on two. Three. I'm slipping off of him, it's hard to align. Come on. Here we go. All right, there we go, finally. All right, we're on 4 or 5. I've overset him. All right, now we're back in. Just dropped him down, or hopefully didn't drop too much else down. All right, this is 6. It's giving a lot of resistance. All right, nice click there. Good counter rotation on 5. I'm gonna switch to a thicker pick. That's better. All right, nice click on 5. Okay, that feels like a left side pin that's pushing back at me. Okay, let's see where we're at there. And grab our little curved flag. All right, nice click out of 1. Two is rotating pretty far. Fascinating. All right, let's check the top again. Nothing on 1. Yeah, that's definitely 2 binding. There we go. And the lock is open. So let's do that thing that we like to do with these high pin count locks and make sure we can spin it all the way around. Pushing the pins, drivers out of the way as they pop into the keyway. There we go. Full 360. All right, and now for honestly the hardest part, which is gutting this lock. So what I have done is I have pre-mutilated this lock for gutting. You can see that there used to be a little indentation there that I've removed on this side as well as the other side, and so now the lock just kind of slides out like that. Doesn't affect the operation of the key or anything. Also, I have this nice new pinning tray. Oop, thanks to Tumblr. I almost lost the lock right there. Tumblr was very nice about giving me this awesome pinning tray, which has the little butterfly on it, although we don't really need the attached plug holder for this particular instance, but it is useful in general. All right, so I'm going to take this very slow because if I don't, I'm going to lose things. And so I'm going to go ahead and start fast forwarding here just so I don't make this video way too long. And let's hope this goes better than last time. Well, damn, that was a process. Okay, sorry that took so long. This thing is, it's so hard to get the key pins out of this thing. So essentially the way this is put together, it has these little covers that just sit over the springs like this. And they're very annoying to get back on. They're very annoying to take off without things flying out. You kind of have to hold them on while you do other stuff. And if you're not careful, you're going to lose everything. And so I'm trying to be cautious here. So let's take a look at what's inside of this lock real quick. So there are three kinds of drivers to look at. The first is that one standard driver that I mentioned at the very beginning. So this is just a standard pin, and this is just to keep the core from being floppy. This thing has 12 spools in it, and so all those spools are immediately going to go into a false set. They do not have a thick part near the top. So the spring sits at this little nub here. I think that's just to keep it straight so that you can put those side things on to hold it together. And then you just have basically a spool with a short top. And that is every single one of the pins in this lock, except for this pin. And this pin is not as much of a pin as it is a ball bearing. And the purpose of it is to give the lock that sort of lock-in feeling that you get with a sidebar for the most part. So as you approach 0, the ball bearing pushes into the top of the key pin, and it sort of makes it feel like you have some tactile feedback for when the lock is at 0. And that particular slot also happens to have a stronger spring in order to facilitate that. But yeah, overall, this is, what is that, 14? So 14 pins, a bunch of these spools, and then you can see this is one of those. This is a 0 lift pin, this is a 0 lift pin. And I think the hardest part about this lock is really getting around those 0 lift pins that you can see, just those huge dimples on those keys. And as well as this warding, it basically makes it very difficult to get a pick inside of the lock, because what will happen is if your pick happens to be longer than this gap in the warding, then you won't be able to get it all the way up onto the left side of the lock, for example, and you'll just smack into this pin in the front, this one here, and you won't be able to get inside. So very clever design, I think, really using both the way the bitting works in tandem with the warding to make a lock that's very hard to navigate and very hard to avoid oversetting things. So that is all for the U-Shin Showa NX. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a good one.